I am a little nervous. Could you all, give me a little smile so that I feel... They're dancing at the back. They're setting a high bar for the rest of you. Yeah, I'm excited to be here. So as they said, I am from Microsoft, but they did not send me here to see you. I came here specifically to see you. And because, I have been so kind, I hope that you will be kind to me in that... Oh, what's happened? Oh, I have drawn my slides mostly, and as you can see here, I am apparently not a great artist. So I asked Jess beforehand if she could tell that that was a piece of Raspberry Pi, and she said that she knew it was a piece of Raspberry Pi. But perhaps she would not have known if that hadn't been implied by the title. So yeah, I'm going to say it was deliberate. I have drawn you things in a sketchy way so that you can let your imagination run wild and come along with me, but try not to judge me. Okay, so where this came from was we had a bunch of Silicon Valley founders come over to see us in WA, and they did a really impressive presentation about all the great stuff that's going on over there in San Francisco. And they had a Q&A at the end, and I put up my hand and said, hey, what do you think we could do in Western Australia, or Australia as a whole, in order to get the same kind of innovation and growth that you have over there? What could we do to, become the next Silicon Valley? And they looked at me and they said, well, it's pretty simple really. You all need to stop scrapping over pie crumbs and start building more pie factories. And I thought, it is a good point. I moved to Australia because I thought it was the new America, a land of opportunity, the last remaining frontier. It is the 4th least densely populated country in the planet, and underneath all that wide red desert is all the treasure. And that's what they teach you from childhood, right? Seek out the treasure, and if you want to be successful, you want to get as much as you can and pile it up, because that will be the standard by which you measure your life. I don't know how big this is here. Is this a big game? Did everyone play this as a kid?
Yeah.
Yeah? In the UK, when it's Christmas, it's cold, so everyone's playing board games at Christmas time, which is kind of asking for trouble because you are trapped in the house with all of your family for 2 or 3 days, unable to get outside because it's rainy, and then you bring Monopoly into the mix. Does when I say that you all played it as kids, was it a happy experience? I think you can see where I'm going. So one of the ways that we learn about life is by playing games. It's a great way to teach kids different concepts. Monopoly was actually created by Elizabeth McGee in 1902. And she called it the landlord's game. And the reason she created it was to show people the basic inequalities in life, that the way our financial systems are set up, the rich will get richer and the poor will get poorer. Ironically, although she patented it in 1904, it was actually Charles Darrow that sold the game to the Parker brothers. And she hardly made any money out of what eventually became one of the most popular games of all time. In life, like the game, there is some luck built in. So some are born with money and some others aren't. Some are a different colour. Some have better access to resources. Some have parents that are kind and supportive and will help them and teach them the right way to go. In the game, everyone starts with the same amount of money, and this isn't true in real life. But she did that because she wanted to demonstrate that the way things go, even if you start on a level playing field, those that secure monopolies early will be impossible to beat in the end. Is anyone in here a master Monopoly player? Yeah, how do you win?
Always go for the pink, not orange ones.
Yeah, okay. Always go for the pink and the orange ones. Yeah. I guess I would just try and buy everything. That was my strategy. Just try and everything I landed on, try and buy it all. So it's not a bad game. It does teach us a lot of things as kids. How to do maths, how to negotiate, basic taxation. But in the end, there is only one way to win. Who is the winner in Monopoly? Yeah, that's a good way to put it, indeed. It isn't enough to be the one with the most money in the game of Monopoly. You have to utterly crush all of the other players. The game does not end until you have taken everything from everyone around you and left them not just with nothing, but completely in your debt. They cannot just be poor, they must have surrendered everything to you, including their dignity. And then you win. What kind of lesson is that to teach our kids? And that mindset, the one that says there is not enough for everyone, that the only way to win is to take stuff from other people, and that it isn't enough to have stuff, others must have less stuff. If you got the thing so that others couldn't have the thing, even if you didn't want the thing, then you win. That's what's holding us back. It teaches us that life is a zero-sum game. Only one of us can win. Either I get the stuff or you get the stuff. And the amount of stuff that we can get is limited. We cannot build more or make more. That very mindset is limiting to us. And we see that mindset spreading. This was not our land. Sovereignty was never ceded. And yet we have the audacity to say that we are full, that there is no more room for people to come in. I'm going to say it again. This is the 4th least densely populated country on the planet. And I know that we don't have the infrastructure to support more people, and the people that we have cannot pay for more infrastructure. We don't want to pay for more roads, we don't want to build more MBN, at least not with our money. But it seems to me then the answer's pretty simple. We should let more people in so that, they can pay more taxes and we can build more infrastructure and we can grow. Growth requires that we open up our borders and share what we have. Growth requires that we acknowledge there is more room and we can build more and we can grow more and we can do more. There is more than enough pie for us to eat ourselves fat. We have to stop snatching it out of each other's hands and cramming it joylessly into our mouths and start baking again. Did you know that there is more than enough food in the world to feed us all, and yet 1 in 8 people doesn't have enough to eat? If you look down your row, that would be at least one of you in that row, maybe 2 of you. And isn't that interesting? If people aren't starving because there isn't enough food, why are they? It's because they cannot pay. We will let them die because we have put a mathematical construct in place in order to figure out how much pie everyone should get. But the thing is, something has gone wrong. As Monopoly demonstrates, our systems are not set up to give everyone a fair bite of the pie. The calculation is not x above y, where x equals pi and y equals people. There is a multiplier in play, which means that the more pie you have, the more pie you can get at a better price. So those of you that have pie already will always have more pie than you need, and those of us that never that never start with any pie will always end up owing other people for every bite that they take. And people get into big fights around the world about which structure works best. Democracy, communism, socialism, dictatorship. But all of that is a distraction. People are starving under all systems. No matter which rules you run by, they were never meant to be an enabler for neglect or an excuse for manslaughter. Because that's what we call it, right? When people die because of our action or inaction, even though we didn't mean them to. And we put rules around everything we do to help make sense of things. We need laws, we need frameworks, we need structure. I mean, that's clear, right? Otherwise it would all be chaos. But we've forgotten what we stand for. We've forgotten what is important. Our systems have become so embedded with legacy processes that our lawmakers no longer know how to change them. The older I get, the faster the world spins. I remember how long a single maths class was when I was in high school. Does anyone else remember back then? Oh, some of you might not be that old. Is anyone, was that like 5 years ago for anyone? No millennials, no generation after millennials. What is that called? Z. No generation Z in the room. Any? Oh, there they are. I do not have my glasses on, so you're just a blur to me. This helps me as well that I don't have my glasses on because I can't tell how many of you there are there. Just a blurry crowd. Yeah, so when I was in high school, I still remember how long a maths class was, and it was, I don't know, a maths class seemed to last about 6 months or longer. Whereas now, I don't even know what month it is in. How are their Christmas decorations up? Is there anyone else that suspects someone is stealing time from them? Yes, definitely. We have so much in our lives that can, confuse us and just get us all crazy. Our job, our finances, our assets, our family, our community. I can spend whole days reacting to stuff and find that I'm completely distracted from making any significant contribution to the world. How many of you make a note of the significant things you do each day, the things that make an impact? How many of you remember any of those things? Yeah, I find that I have whole days where I'm just reacting to stuff, I'm just reading my email, I'm answering things, and it's crazy. I'm busy the whole day, I feel anxious, I feel stressed, and I get to the end of the day and I feel like I have achieved nothing. This is not a good scenario, it's not a good place to be in, but I know that more and more of us feel that all the time. I do have a small recommendation on that. I have a thing called a happiness jar. Does any of you have a happiness jar? No happiness jars. You go to IKEA and you get a big glass jar, any shape that you like, and you get those coloured post-it notes. And then whenever you have something that is a great thing happen to you in each day, you make a note of that thing, you put it on your thing. I was the keynote speaker at DevFest. Put that on a post-it note, put it inside your jar. At the end of the year, when it's New Year's Eve, and you're looking back on the year and thinking, what a waste of time that was. I haven't achieved anything, I didn't do any of my New Year's resolutions, I haven't moved on. You open the jar, you tip out all your colourful post-it notes, and you look at all the wonderful things that you have done that year. All of the compliments you received, all of the achievements, all of the stuff that you've forgotten about because the world is spinning too fast. So as the pace of life increases, we don't have time to stop and smell the roses. We forget that those rules, those checkboxes, that framework we've put in place is artificial. It's meant to give us some guidance in the chaos, but it is not the law. At least it's not the ultimate law. Quick nerd reference. Do you all know what I'm referring to here? Some of you definitely do. So this is the answer to the ultimate question from what?
Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, right. After all that calculation, it figured out that the answer to life, the universe, and everything is 42. And then, of course, they needed to ask it, what is the ultimate question? Does anyone remember that? What is it? What is it? Does anyone know?
Yes, it's the meaning of life, the universe, and everything.
No, but what they asked it then, but what is the question? Because if the answer is 42, what is the question?
How many times should a man walk down the street?
How many what?
How many times should a man walk down the street?
No. It went off and it worked out what the question was from the answer, and it came up with 6 times 9. So I can only presume that the universe was written in JavaScript, because then at least that calculation makes total sense. Or at least there's a version of it where that is true, or possibly not true at the same time. But we're not going to take this presentation quantum. So we follow these frameworks we've set up. We go to university. Oh, I did philosophy, I should say, at university. So if anyone does want to talk quantum or meaning of life afterwards, then yeah, talk to me about that in the breaks. We follow those frameworks we've set up. Go to school, university, get a job, get married, buy a house, have a kid, work for 40 years, play golf, retire, die. Oh no, wait. Retire, then play golf, then die. That would make sense. And we follow those frameworks blindly, never questioning whether we actually want those things. We work like drones, completing our tasks, claiming our paychecks, without ever looking up from our computer screens. It's a headlong rush from the cradle to the grave without thought about our purpose in this world. On a side note, those young ones, they say that millennials aren't trapped into the same hamster wheel that the rest of us are. They aren't even learning to drive, because why tie yourself financially to an asset as expensive as it is when you can only use it for a small proportion of the time? And the minute you drive it off the lot, it loses half its value. Why not just Uber places? And they aren't buying houses, because you can rent a way better place than you could buy for the same amount of money. And they don't even want to work for the same company for 40 years, or even 20, or even 10 for the long service leave is a stretch. They are very wise, those young people. It's not true what people say about them. They are not wasting all their money on avocados. And yet we are still in a world obsessed with assets, protecting our borders, trying to hoard everything for ourselves, fighting, as they said, over pie crumbs rather than trying to build anything new. But what if we stop for a moment and close our eyes? You could all do that, close your eyes. And take a deep breath. And just think about what we want our legacy on this earth to be. We who code are creatives, world builders, legacy leavers. We were not placed on this rock, hurtling through space to grind. We are here to make a difference. Technology is an enabler. Putting it in the hands of those that do not have it enables them to do more. It is a tool. It is a means to a better life. And we who work with it every day have that power to set others free. We have the power to lift them up, the power to put them on a path to a better life should we choose to do so. I believe in the universal basic income. I believe that people have a right to a safe place to live, to something to eat. If we give people a good education, then it makes society better and it raises all of us up. I believe if people are hurt or sick, then they should be treated. And of course, I also believe in free Wi-Fi. And I'm only half joking there. Having access to the internet and technology is life-changing, and it is a way to alleviate poverty. Do you all know what TV white space is? This is a very cool thing. It's something also referred to as last mile technology. We don't have Wi-Fi everywhere we go, and we struggle when we are out of range of our phone signals or our Wi-Fi signals. And of course, in poorer countries like Africa, they have even less access to those things. But what there is TV white space. There are frequencies that the TV stations, that are in between what the TV stations are using. And that can be activated to give people access to the internet. Just like Wi-Fi, but on different frequencies, and it's called last mile because obviously the TV infrastructure is all in there. So Namibia is the home to the largest TV white spaces project in the world, covering 62 times 152 kilometers. It connects 28 schools, 24,000 students. And in Ghana, over 10,000 students are accessing data bundles for less than 2 cedi per day. And in Botswana, 3 hospitals and 5 clinics are bringing specialized telemedicine services to over 3,000 patients because of it. Through these pilots, we've demonstrated how new technologies expand the internet and support public policy goals around education, healthcare, e-government, and other priorities. This in turn motivates governments to open up access to more TV white space frequencies. But we don't need to stand by and wait for those traditional governors to rewrite the policy that will correct the route we are travelling on. If technology has shown us anything, it's that we can feel free to rewrite the rules and to disrupt the system. Many of the truths about the way things must be run have been disproved. I suppose you've probably all seen this one before, but the world's largest taxi company owns no taxis, the largest accommodation provider owns no real estate, the largest phone companies own no telco infrastructure, the world's most valuable retailer has no inventory, the most popular media owner creates no content, fastest growing banks have no actual money, although actually the traditional banks perhaps don't have as much money as they claim, and that's caused some of the problems. The world's largest movie house owns no cinemas, and the largest software vendors don't write the apps. Anything is possible. We don't need to colour inside the lines anymore. We don't need to ask permission. We're already changing the world with what we build. This is my favourite picture on the internet right now. Because you can definitely tell they're all sitting there thinking, okay, boomer. So young people are definitely picking up the slack for us here. They refuse to believe the rhetoric. The look on these girls' faces says it all. If you haven't watched Greta Thunberg's talks, then you should definitely do it. She is a very smart young woman. She said she first heard about climate change in 2011 when she was 8 years old, and she couldn't understand why so little was being done about it. 3 years later, she became depressed, lethargic, and stopped talking as well as eating, and was eventually diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome, obsessive compulsive disorder, and selective mutism. While acknowledging that her diagnosis had limited her in the past, she does not view her Asperger's as an illness, but instead calls it her superpower, because she would not be turned aside from her goal. She said for about 2 years she challenged her parents to lower the family's carbon footprint by becoming vegan and giving up flying. This was pretty extreme because her mother was an international opera singer and she had to give up her career in order to fulfill this goal. But Greta says that because they did that, it gave her hope, and she started to believe that she could make a difference. These young people, I remember when I was her age, I definitely believed the thing that said adults know more than you and you should just, sit back and trust us, we will sort everything out. They don't believe that, and they're not waiting. They are taking things into their own hands right now. very inspirational to me. Put your hand up if you're an extrovert. Oh, really? Could you put your hand up if you're an introvert? You see, now I don't believe you because you put your hands up, and I just think if you were really that introvert, you'd still have your hands down. And there's probably like a lot more people who are more introvert than you in this room then, I guess. And also there's a bunch of people that are probably just too cool to put their hands up. So you people should just like nod at me, maybe give me a little wink, you know. How many of you designers, artists, architects, creators? No one? A few, yeah? How many of you are coders, developers, programmers, builders? How many of you are producers, product owners, managers? How many of you are UXers, community people? And how many of you do not know what you are wandering in the world, lost and alone? That's pretty deep. It's good that you know. Look around you. Look around at this wonderful room of people. There are people here doing completely different stuff to what you do. Do you know those people? One of the easiest things that you can start doing to change up where you are right now and the world that you're living in is to change up the group of people that you are hanging with. Now, I'm not saying that you should dump your friends, because that is bad. I'm saying that inspiration is more likely to strike when you mix it up, when you surround yourself with people offering a different skill set than you and a different thought process. Because it isn't so easy to feel like there is purpose and there is power in your life. A lot of people I know feel that they don't have time to do anything that really matters. We're so busy, so tired, that even thinking about doing anything else seems impossible. But there is something that you can do in each day to put more goodness in the world, to step towards a goal, rather than to balance precariously, seeking equilibrium. Like little things, but still you're moving forward. So walking to work or cycling or taking public transport just one day a week reduces your carbon footprint if you normally drive. Not eating meat one day a week or 3 days, or, you know, like Greta said, all of it. You could buy a coffee for the person behind you in the queue or the homeless person on the street outside. You could smile at people rather than just giving them that blank look that has become so acceptable. And go to the meetups and the conferences and get involved. Volunteer for stuff, mentor people, ask other people for mentorship, because those relationships are always two ways, and who you mentor will learn from you too. So I'm definitely not making an impact on the same scale as Greta, but nevertheless, there is stuff that we can do in each day to make a difference. Since I started surrounding myself with people that I admire, people that inspire me, and people that I want to be when I grow up, I feel like I've really leveled up. And I don't mean anyone is promoting me or giving me raises, because they are definitely not. But those things aren't real. They're just tokens in the game, distractions from what matters. What I mean is I feel really happy. I feel like I'm making a difference in this world. I am making an impact. I feel at home amongst people that I think are real heroes. And I can see a purpose and a passion in my life. I saw a talk a couple of years ago by web goddess Chris Howard at DDD Perth, and she talked about the campsite rule, which comes from Robert Baden-Powell, the Boy Scout founder, who said, "Leave this world a little better than you found it." In each day that we live, there is an opportunity to do that, to add some goodness into the world, to help someone, to be kind to someone, to reuse something instead of throwing it away. Have you all seen this movie? The Pay It Forward, it's called. If you have not seen it, you should see it. It's still one of the most powerful movies of all time, in my view. And this little boy had this idea where he said, if I help one person, and instead of letting them pay me back, I ask them to pay that forward and help 3 other people, and that they do the same to them, ask them not to pay it back, but pay it forward to 3 more, then you can create a movement that will change the world. So if we each do one good thing each day for someone else, then we are enabling those around us. If I endeavour to help those who have less than me, if I give voice to someone who is not being heard, if I support someone who needs it, if I lift up those around me, these are small changes with great impact, and any one of them might create the momentum for change. People often ask me how I find the energy to give back so much of my time to community, and my answer, of course, is that the community pays me back in immeasurable ways. I feel their love, their energy, and their thankfulness for something that I can easily give them. A few weeks ago, we drove down to Bunbury on a Friday night for She Codes Australia, Southwest Edition. This is tiring. You've done a whole week of work and then you drive 3 or 4 hours down south, knowing that you're going to be teaching people to code the whole of the next day. And we were really tired, but we had a nice dinner together. The mentors all stayed in an Airbnb house, and they came out with me and helped me catch Pokemon, which is important. And the next day we mentored about 50 women in Python, Django, WordPress, CSS and HTML. And at the end of the day, I felt more energized than I had at the start, because we're enabling a whole new segment of society to learn skills that will help them build, create and deliver innovation in the regions. And it only needed us to give a little bit of our time to support people with skills that we already had. And those women were soon helping each other, teaching each other with stuff that they had literally just learned a few minutes before. And they will go on to help the next group of people that come after them. In a world where it's easy to feel there is nothing we can do to make an impact, this is an opportunity I can never resist. And each of us, each of you, has something that they can give to someone who has less. Maybe it's money, maybe it's time, or maybe it's support. Give it. There are those of you in this room with the ideas that can change the world, but no idea how to build them. And there are those of you who could write the code the world runs on, but don't know what the specs should be. And there are those of you who know how to make stuff usable and who can take the friction from the tools so that people love them. And there are those of you that can put all those people together and with the tasks and cause it all to happen. This is who we are. In this room, we have the people that can make the world better. All we need to do is find each other and help each other find the way. We can fight over pie crumbs, or we can build pie factories. What are you going to do?